Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay and this is episode 32 of my crochet podcast. I'm going to be chatting about what I've recently been working on, some new things and finished objects. So yes, thank you so much if you are watching for the first time. Hope you like what you see, and if you do, please do give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, then a very warm welcome back. Let's get started. So I thought I would come at you from a little bit of a different location today. This is my living room. I really hope that my camera is... Are you wonky? Are you on the straight? Right. Yeah, this is my living room featuring crochet cushion and a crochet wall hanging and also a picture wall, which you can't really see. And if I get interrupted by my family members, then I can only apologise, but hopefully they're out for a walk for an hour or so. So we are, if you're watching in the future, still in lockdown. I think we are week 9 now in the UK. So the less said about that, the better. We're just here for some crafty chat. Finished objects. The first thing I have to show you this week is a little banner. I'm hoping I'm showing you this the right way around. Hang on. Is that better? It says home. So this is actually a little project. I don't know how well you can see all the letters. They are sort of amigurumi style, worked in the round. And this is a little project that I did with Wool and the Gang's Easy as ABC crochet pattern. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have heard me going on about it a little bit over the last few weeks. And basically what happened is I had contacted them, I'm going to be really honest, I had contacted them about something else, yarn support for a big commission, which I can't talk about at the moment, but it's very exciting and I will talk to you about in the future. I contacted them about yarn support and they had said yes, and so we were organising the yarn, and in the same email they said, oh, we're actually running a challenge. It's starting next week and it is for Mental Health Awareness Week, and what we're trying to do is encourage people to make banners using from a word of their choice from our free crochet pattern. Would you like to make it and share it and then also tag 5 crafty friends? So honestly, I had so much on last week. I think as a distraction from lockdown and the situation, I have really kind of thrown myself into crochet projects and sort of some paid projects for people and stuff as well, which is a challenge when you're on maternity leave, let alone when you're in lockdown with 3 kids. But anyway, it's what's been keeping me sane. So I had a lot on last week, but it just seemed like such a lovely project for such a good reason that I said yes. I was like, yeah, of course I'd love to do that. So I made my sign, I took a pic and I put it on my Instagram, and then they got back in touch with me and they said, oh, we like your sign so much, like thank you so much for sharing and being part of our Wonderwool challenge. I should have said it's their Wonderwool challenge. Would you like to do a live stitch surgery for us? So if you don't follow Wool and the Gang, or if you're not familiar with them, I have shared some of their kits and things in the past. They're a really lovely, quite modern yarn company, and they do sell individual balls of yarn, but predominantly they sell kits. And every Saturday they do what's called a stitch surgery live, and somebody comes on and sort of just talks about crochet techniques or different things. So they asked me to do it and I said yes, and then I got so nervous because they have, I think, 360,000 followers, and I know not all of those followers were going to be watching the live. Honestly, I got myself in such a pickle, which in hindsight was a bit silly because I come on and talk to you guys, and last year, or 18 months ago in particular, I was averaging about 4,000 or 5,000 views on my YouTube, and on my Instagram I tend to get, I don't know, 1,000 to 2,000 people watching my stories. So there were a lot less than that watching the live, and yet I just was so, I think it's because it was for somebody else. But if you happened to watch it, then thank you. I talked everybody through making a letter. So as I said, I made home for my personal project, and then this is the little letter A, and this is what I talked everybody through making on the sort of live Instagram video. So I kind of spent about half an hour, 40 minutes talking through the letters, and then the last bit was questions. And if you do want to watch it, I think it's on their IGTV channel, so you can go and check that out. But yeah, long story short, my finished object is this home banner. The yarns I used for mine are not actually Wool and the Gang yarns. Don't tell them. I do have some really nice Wool and the Gang yarns that I used in the tutorial, so I can show you those in a bit. But I just used yarn that I had in my stash. So the pattern calls for 4.5mm hook and Aran weight yarn, or worsted weight yarn, and for these I use chunky. So you can see my O is a little bit too small, and that's just because I use different yarns from my stash. If you were to make the pattern, they would all come out the same size. So I think this is actually a Stitch and Story chunky merino yarn, which is a really nice one to use. I think this is a Drops alpaca, and this one was actually a Clover cotton, I feel like a cotton yarn, that I picked up when I was in Japan. This is what's left of it on the ball. And I really like that I remember all the different places and reasons that I got the yarn. This one I also got, is it focusing? This yarn I also got when I was in Japan, and I did make up a little hat with it. For the longest time, I don't actually know, but I suspect that if you go back far enough and watch my my vlogs, my podcasts from around, must have been like October 2017, then you will have seen this yarn, because I got it when I was in Japan and I spent a small fortune on it. And it's partly because I misinterpreted I sort of did the translation, what am I trying to say? The exchange rate wrong in my head. And then when I got to the till and I realised how much it was, I think it was like £18 or something for a skein, which is a lot. Like, I wouldn't even normally spend that much on like an indie dyed skein. But anyway, my friend who was with me at the time, she's Japanese, her name's Sayuri, that was who we were sort of partly out there visiting. She was like, really? Are you really gonna spend that much on a ball of yarn? Anyway, I did. And I just really love this yarn. I have a thing for variegated yarns. I have no idea what the company name or anything was. It's not one I recognised. I think it's a Japanese brand. I don't know whether it is hand spun or indie dyed or anything, but it was a lot of money. And I made a hat from it in moss stitch, a knitted hat, which actually looked really beautiful. And when I came to do this banner, I thought, oh, I'll do one of them variegated, and I was torn between this one and this, which is a Vicky Brown yarn. I think it's called Waterfalls, this colourway. This is an indie dyed yarn that I've wound up. It's so beautiful, and in the end I went with this one. But actually, I'm not sure that I like how it's crocheted out. I think it's, every now and again, I think you get a yarn, a variegated yarn, that just looks better knitted. And maybe this is one. Like, I think it looks cute, but it's not maybe quite, I don't know. I'm just rambling now, honestly. If you're a first time viewer, well done if you've watched me ramble about this for 10 minutes. This is my home banner. I used different yarns. I used scrap yarns. I then ended up doing a live on Wool and the Gang's account, and I was really nervous. That is the long story short. That's pretty much the only finished object I've got this week. So maybe I will jump ahead to new things in order to show you the yarn that they sent me when I did the live tutorial, because oh my goodness, the colours are pretty sensational. So I'll start with the white. Okay, so far so good. This is their Feeling Good yarn, and this colour is ivory white. Okay, so fine, very nice. This is the eucalyptus green. I don't know if the colour is actually showing up very well. I just thought these colours were so beautiful. Lilac powder. Let's see if I can show you them all in one go. And then this one, which is the one I actually used in the tutorial, which I think is called olive, bronzed olive. I mean, look at the bronzed olive. How, that's just such a beautiful colour. A bright pink. This is the hot punk pink, and this is the cameo rose. And I think, okay, the hot punk pink, I'm gonna leave him out because he's beautiful but he doesn't quite go. These colours together, they haven't asked me to promo their yarns, so just want to show you them because I get excited about yarn. Look at these colours. I mean, I used a scrap to make the letter in my live video. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 balls of yarn. As if I didn't already have enough yarn. But these colours are so beautiful. I'm pretty happy about it. So the yarn is a 70% alpaca, 7% merino, and 23% nylon, made in Peru. And yeah, these are 50-gram balls. It's their Feeling Good yarn, and it would normally use a 5mm, but to make up the letters I used a 4.5 just to give it that kind of tighter amigurumi sort of shaping. And you may notice this is what the sort of letters work out like in the pattern. I actually stuffed mine because they're worked in the rounds. You end up with sort of a little pocket, so put a bit of stuffing in, a few yarn scraps or a bit of fabric scraps, and yeah, got yourself a little letter. So that was a fun project to do. If you want to join in and you want to make a word, the Wonder Wool Challenge is running all throughout this week just gone, but I think the pattern is always a free pattern on their blog or their website. And yeah, I'll put all the details below, and I'll put a link below. So if you fancied making a positive message for your home or to add to the virtual wall on Instagram, then I'll put all the details below and you can go and check it out. Other finished objects this week include a new square for my travelling Afghan. So this is, I'm going to be really annoying now and forget the name of the maker. I'm going to look it up because I want to, I feel like it's Megan Makes and Does. Megan Makes Do. Okay, Megan Makes Do. Megan Makes Do is the name of the designer's handle of this square on Instagram. I'll give you a little close-up. And there's a really lovely story behind this square. So this is the Travelling Afghans project. If you've watched my last couple of videos, you will be familiar with it because I have been making it. And look, I've made a new one. This is actually, I think, the most recent square that has come out. I won't show you all my other squares, but if you are interested, you can go back to my previous 2 videos because I show you all the different squares and designs. And the idea behind this cal is that each square represents the designer's life in yarn, and each square comes out every 2 weeks. The square is going to come out and they are all designed by different designers. Does that make sense if you haven't seen before? Megan's square is all about, if you can see, it starts off as a circle and then it goes, what we're calling this a hexagon, and then it goes back to a circle, and then it goes to a square. And what she said is this represents all the ways in which she has changed in her life. One of the times, particularly when she had her children, because she had quite severe postnatal depression twice. And I just thought, what an amazing story. I mean, it's a pretty square and, you know, you'd enjoy it even if you didn't know that story. But if you've ever had your life shaped or changed by events, or if you've ever had children, I feel like this will resonate with people because I just love that concept. I love that the shapes change and evolve, and oh my goodness, is that not what happens to us all? I'm sorry if that's a bit intense for you, but those are my feelings about my crochet square. That is how I feel. So yeah, it makes me quite excited when people share stories like that. There was another really lovely one, and I'm going to be I'm on an honesty streak, super honest. It was just a granny square. Say just a granny square. It was a granny square, and I thought, oh, a granny square, like fine, love a granny square. Who doesn't love a granny square? But because some of the other designs were so complex, I was surprised. But when I read her story about why she had chosen a granny square as her design for the series, I haven't actually made my square yet for this blanket, the granny square. It was all to do with her grandma and how her grandma had taught her to crochet, and she had lived close to her grandma, and then she moved to a different country, and then she came back to care for her grandma. Oh my goodness. Suddenly the granny square takes on a whole new level of meaning, and this is why we should not judge and why we should read people's stories first. It's my moral lesson to myself. So that's my latest square in my travelling Afghan. As you can tell, I'm really enjoying it. I am a couple of squares behind, and I am very pleased that I took the decision to add in a second colour, especially with this one, because I feel like it shows up the, sorry, the light is really strong. It shows up the different shapes really well. And the little ball of yarn that I have left of this one is in my basket down here. Try and find it for you, and I want to tell you about it because it has a little story of its own. Oh, it's going to be annoying now, and I'm not going to be able to find it. It's essentially was a yarn that I bought off my mum's friend, and she had not only spun it herself, but it was a whole I don't know what the word in, if you're talking about food, you would call it like farm to table. So I suppose we could say sheep to ball. Oh, it's in here. A whole sheep to ball experience. Sheep to skein, that might be what people say. So basically they, this is what's left. There we go. Yeah, this is all that's left, but they went to, with permission from the farmers, they went to, I think it was a local, I don't even know how you describe it, farm where they keep sheep for their wool. And they were involved in shearing the sheep, and then all those processes in between that I'm slightly fuzzier about. Carding, I believe, is one. You know, brushing it out, getting it ready, spinning it, I know that one, into a ball. So I bought a couple of these from her. I mean, they are rustic. Like, you can feel that they have come through a, you know, handmade process. But I adore variegated yarns and tweedy yarns, and I'm not actually sure what do you call this, where it's like 3 colours spun together, but they're all like the natural colours from the sheep themselves. And yeah, I really like now that it's in one of my squares, and I will know. If you had, you would not want to make a whole blanket out of this because it's woolly, woolly, woolly. But it makes this one feel so soft in comparison next to it. So it's quite a sensory experience. I'm getting very deep with my crochet this week. I hope that's okay for everybody. So yes, I'm going to count him as another little finished object. And I also have started making a new square for this project, which I had located a second ago and now have just dumped somewhere. So let me see if I can find that one to show you. Oh, here he is. This is, I think I talked about this one last time. This is the start of another square, and this is the Coco Crochet Lee one. So this is going to be a sort of flower motif in the middle. Here you can see these bubbles are the kind of centers, and then I think these are going to kind of come out into petals here. and it's all front post and back post, and goodness me, these two, I don't know if it's because I have been tired these last couple of weeks and I've been trying to do too much, but what a headache. They were not, they weren't super difficult, but they were not easy watch TV in the evening at 9 p.m. crocheting, which is when I was trying to do it. So that was probably my issue. Probably if I'd had the time and space to sit down by myself and crochet in silence, maybe with a window open to listen to the birds singing, then that would have been wonderful and beautiful. But that doesn't happen in lockdown in my house, so they gave me a bit of a headache. But gosh, I don't even know where I'm up to with this one, so that's going to be fun trying to remember that. This is what the front looks like, this is what the back looks like. It's quite cool too, isn't it? So yeah, I do love how structural front and back post stitches can be, and how, you know, how they can give you different textures, like this one and this one. I do feel with this project, some of them are very simple, like I was talking about the granny square, and some of them I feel like I am learning crochet stitches in ways I've never done before. So that's quite exciting and makes me quite pleased that sticking at it and doing it, because I think that's always important, to broaden my crochet mind and learn new skills. Another, I'm going to count this as a finished object. Another finished object I have to show you is, if you watched 2 weeks ago, you may recall I mentioned a book which was Cozy Crochet Blankets by Anna Marie Soers, and this was a new book that's recently come out. She very kindly gifted it to me and asked me if I would like to be part of her book tour, which essentially meant that I was one of 30 crocheters who were making something different from the book, and each day during the month of, where are we? I think it started sort of mid-April and went on to mid-May, which is where we are now. Each day, a different person would share what they had made from the book. So I mentioned it briefly, but I didn't really show you guys in any detail. Well, if you were looking for some blanket projects to get stuck into, I cannot recommend this book more heavily, because the amount of projects that she has crammed into these pages is pretty intense in a good way. This one is so pretty. This is the Springfield blanket. So this one is made up of all different motifs. You can see that one. Oh, this one I was tempted by too. This one is called Little Boxes of Joy. Isn't that a cute name for a blanket? And it is Mosaic crochet. This one really appeals to me on a graphic, is what I'm trying to say, graphic way, geometric. I really like those kind of shapes. Wow, so we got, oh, rainbows in Tunisia. That's a beautiful one. Another one that uses motif sections. She's just, I cannot begin to imagine how long it took her to make all these blankets, to design all these blankets, and to put together this gorgeous book. Flower patches. This is a really lovely one. I'd like to make this one in kind of like 70s Orla-Keely colours. I think that one would be cool. And then another mosaic crochet. So the one I decided to make was mosaic crochet, because I have never tried it and I've always wanted to. And so the blanket I chose is called Hearts Full of Grace, and this is what it looks like in the made up blanket. How beautiful is that? So obviously, because we were part of the book tour, she did say to us, if you aren't able to make a full blanket in a couple of weeks or however long it was, then, you know, feel free to just make a motif, or maybe make a couple of motifs or a cushion cover, or start a blanket, like whatever you feel able to do. Which, oh, this one's really nice. I saw If anybody watches the Lulu Loves podcast, she did a really beautiful version of this in sort of like pastel and neutral colours. So it's almost like a patchwork log cabin design. It's called Painting the Woods. Reading that backwards. That's really lovely. Yes, so I was never planning on making a full blanket, although I have enjoyed this square so much, I think I may. I'm going to show you what I made first, which was in cotton, which is basically the size of a size that the pattern calls for, if that makes sense. And this is my little square. So I used 2 colours. I think these are Debbie Bliss Eco Baby, which I don't think is a yarn that exists anymore. I'm never sure about the Debbie Bliss yarns, if they're still going or not. And this is what I made. I was really happy with this. I haven't quite finished it, as you can see. I was really digging it, but I don't know, something about the scale or just didn't feel very me. So I thought, I know, I'll try some different yarns. I'll make it again in some different yarns. And then I got super excited because I thought I had found a sensational yarn to use, and it is this one, which is another yarn that I got when I was in Japan that I have never used. This was, I bought just on a market stall, and I bought it in a plastic bag, so not particularly attractive how I've stored it, but bought a couple of balls of it. So they're almost like made up of all these different little threads and fibres, and I just thought they were so fun and pretty. I got like 4 of those. I think they were only about 25 grams each, and then I got 1 each of these, and I have just never ever used them. Look at that one! Oh my god, it's so fun! It's got bubbles in it. This one's got like sort of yarn rickrack in it, and this one is just really beautiful subtle pinks, but obviously they are just tiny little balls, and I've never thought of anything to do with them. I almost made Christmas decorations with them one year. They've just sat, and I get them out occasionally and look at them and admire them, and I never made anything with them. So I was like, oh, finally, I've found a purpose. I'm going to use these for my Mosaic cushion cover squares. So that is what I started to do, and I'll show you what I started to do. Now, here it is. But I mean, I know it's scrappy yarn, but what I thought was going to happen was I thought where I was doing the sort of second colour, it was going to really help give it definition, and it just didn't. And I got to this stage and I just thought, no, it's not the right use for this yarn. It's not the calling that this yarn was meant to have. So back on the shelf it goes for a little while longer. Longer. What I finally settled on was some chunky yarn, surprise surprise, that I found in my stash. Surprise surprise. And this is what I've made. So for comparison, this is a little bit of a default for me. If you have watched before, I make stuff small and then I just make it in a bigger yarn, because apparently that is what I like to do. I even did that, didn't I, with the home letters. Didn't make those in Aran, made them in chunky. Made the Mosaic square in chunky, but how beautiful does this dark grey and pink look together? I am made up about that, and I feel now it will go in my living room very well. So I think I will probably make 4 squares and make a cushion out of it. I do also have a kind of longer, thinner bolster cushion that might work maybe with 2 of them. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But wow, it basically used a whole ball of yarn. So this is the problem, people, when you don't plan and you just use stash because you've got no idea how much you're going to use up. If you follow people's patterns and you use the yarn they tell you to use, then it's all laid out beautifully simply for you and you cannot go wrong. But apparently I don't do that, so yeah. But I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased. Just look how, even from this distance, how graphic and beautiful it is, and won't it go nicely in my living room? So yeah, that is the Little Hearts of Grace pattern by Anna, and this is her really beautiful book. Obviously I was gifted it and she did ask me to take part in her book tour, but if I didn't like it I just wouldn't show you it. If you're into blankets or just looking for something a bit special and different, honestly there's a lot of talent that's gone into this book, so I highly recommend it. And that's pretty much it for what I'm calling finished objects. Works in progress wise, I have done possibly one more row. Are you bored of seeing this jumper now? On my Wool and the Gang Armada sweater. So there's really not very much to show you. It's basically taken a back burner because I have had some commissions and different things I've been working on. I think I used that excuse last time too. I haven't been prioritising it. One back panel, it's arcade stitch, it's called the Armada sweater, and it was a Wool and the Gang kit that was gifted to me. And then this is what I've done of the other. So hang on a minute, let's just hold them up and compare, because it's quite a boxy short sweater. So I don't think I've actually got, how many more rows have I got on here? I'm going to call that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more rows to do, and then I'm on to the sleeves. Thank you also to everybody who gave suggestions or commented on my other unfinished sweater kit pattern that I showed last week, the one that had been on the naughty pile. Yeah, you were all right. It is too small on the body. I'm just going to rework the sleeves. Somebody had a really good idea for how I could work the increases and just take it back a bit. Somebody else said make sure you have enough yarn. I think I do have enough yarn, and do you know what, I might even just make new sleeves. I might just make new sleeves because I feel like that will probably be quicker for me than remembering or learning how to like pick up the stitches and stuff. So it's been really hot here in the UK. It's been like, May for us is normally spring weather, but it's been like the middle of summer basically is how it's felt. So I haven't been much inclined to work on a super chunky jumper, the bright pink one that I showed last time. But you guys have definitely motivated me to finish it because it is a joyful colour, will spread joy for me when I wear it. So that is works in progress. What else have I been working on? And then new things was my yarn that I showed you. Oh my goodness, I think I've shown you everything. Okay, I did bring down one more thing to show you, so I'll quickly try and squeeze that in before anybody comes home. And that was, somebody asked me, did you ever finish your Between the Lines shawl that was a labour of love? If you have watched the podcast before, you will probably have also got a sense of this if you're a new viewer. I am not the world's best starter finisher, and it does take me a long time to finish things, and it's normally just because I work on about 10 things at once and get easily distracted and enjoy starting new projects, as do we all. But one of the things that I was working on for forever, a couple of years ago, was a project called the Between the Lines shawl. And it was not my normal style of thing to make because I like to do chunky, quick, fast things. But it was just so beautiful when I saw it. I felt I just wanted to make it. And it was a Sharpies pattern using 2 of their whirls. Which are both ombre gradient yarns, so they start one colour and they tan into another. And the idea was you picked 2 high contrast whirls, and you start at this teeny tiny narrow point, and You keep going 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 and going and going and going until you end up with this big shawl. Now, you will notice I don't have any whirls attached. How well can you see the colour change? It's got this kind of cool optical illusion where when you look at it along the, what are we calling this, the like flat, it looks different. Can you see? It looks different to when you look at it just sort of flat on. And so yeah, about here I think is where the two, I can't remember what colour my whirls were. One was something to do with blackberries. I'll go back and have a look and see if I can remind you. But you can see about here, both of the colours get quite similar and then they start getting a bit more contrasty again. If I'm honest, I thought I had finished, but I don't think I have, because when I put it on, it was just, okay, this is bigger than I remember. It just didn't seem as big as the ladies did in the picture. But you could absolutely wear this as like a scarf or a shawl, couldn't you? Have I worn it? No. Has it just sat in my cupboard for 18 months? Yes. I don't know if I miscounted my rows once. I haven't even blocked it, so potentially I just need to block it. But I didn't bind it off because it's crochet, but I fastened off. I was like, yay, I'm done! And I put it on, and it didn't seem big enough. And I think I just felt very sad and very defeated. That's how I remember feeling, although now I've got it out again, it doesn't make me feel like that. And actually I'm like, well, this is an okay size for a shawl or a scarf. But you know what? It turns out I don't wear shawls. So that was a lot of hours spent working on something that I have never worn. I wonder if I could just like drape it artistically over a sofa or something somewhere in my house and call it a throw, because it is really beautiful. I remember which is the right side and which is the wrong side. Here you are. I'll give you a little close-up because let's enjoy these thousands and thousands of stitches I did on something that I've never worn. Da, 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 da. So yes, thank you to the lovely person who asked about this project. I'm not really sure if that's a conclusive answer. In my mind, I have finished it because let's be honest, I don't think I'm prepared to do any more work on it. But I think if I actually counted my rows and went and looked back at the pattern, I should probably have done maybe another like 10, 15 rows or something. So, and it just started to get like, can you see the like darker flecks? It just started to get quite dark again. So I think if I had gone on a little bit longer, I would have got a really nice contrast at the end. But it has been that long since I last picked it up or even looked at it, that if I'm being really honest with myself, there's lots of other things that I would sooner be working on. So yay, it's finished. I hope that's a satisfactory answer for you. It doesn't really feel like a satisfactory answer for me, but that is what it is. So yes, my between the lines shawl, I actually really like this sort of like really dark purple and white section. That's a really nice contrast. Maybe if I go to a wedding or some kind of outdoor summer evening event, those things that happened before lockdown, it would actually be a really nice accompaniment. So we should treasure the things that we spent a long time on, shouldn't you? Rather than leaving them in the cupboard for nobody to see. Sorry, shawl. So yes, that is my very passionate, apparently, podcast this week on crochet. I've felt a lot of feelings. I'm not saying that I've been shut up in the house too long, but that could have something to do with it. I hope you have enjoyed watching. Anyway, I've been getting such lovely comments on the podcasts, the last two that I've done, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, just thank you for watching and coming back to see me again, because I know I did have a really long break. I am hopeful that soon I will be able to up my video sort of content even more, because it's something I'm really enjoying. And come September I will have 2 children at school, and George will be 1. I can't actually believe that. So he will be having some time at nursery, sort of as and when I go back to work, so we shall see. This very intense period that we're in right now does feel like it might be starting to come to an end, which I know brings with it a lot of mixed emotions in different ways anyway, but it does give me a little bit of a kind of window out of the situation that we're in. Not that I can really complain, because we've all been very healthy and happy and at home. I didn't really say why I chose home as my word. But it was basically because, as much as I have resented being stuck at home at times over the last 9 weeks, I've also been so incredibly, phenomenally grateful that I have had a safe space to shelter me and my family, because I know that isn't the case for everybody, and you know, I'm so privileged and thankful that it has been for me. So yeah, I hope you guys are all staying safe and well, and I will speak to you again in 2 weeks. If you want to come and see what I'm up to in the meantime, you can come and find me over on Instagram as Lottie Albert. But until then, I will see you back here in 2 weeks. And also, I'm very nearly at 5,000 subscribers. I'm not sure if I hit 5,000 before and then they've gone down again. I can't actually remember. But when I hit 5,000 subscribers, I will do a giveaway. So if you aren't subscribed and you want to be part of the giveaway, subscribe, and then we will get there sooner. And if you want to share this crochet podcast with anybody else who you think might like it, then that would be massively appreciated too. So I'll speak to you all soon, and thank you for watching. Bye!